Good morning, and welcome to The Stranger Within by Kimberly Tracy. We last left off where Hannah was laying in bed the night that Jenna went missing. As she laid in bed, she heard a sound that sounded like someone screaming and felt the pit in the bottom of her stomach. Chapter 4. There's a tingling sensation located just below Jenna's left knee, towards the outer edge of her leg. She thinks about moving to scratch it, but then she knows another location will just start to itch. Convincing herself that the irritation is not real, just a figment of her imagination, she tries to ignore it. If she ignores it long enough, it will go away. Then, maybe, just then, Jenna will be able to fall back asleep. Beep, 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 beep. Jenna popped up from bed, grabbed her phone, and swiped the X on it, then threw it on the bed. She tipped her head side to side, trying to crack her neck before getting out of the bed. Jenna stretched upward, then released her hands, letting them fall to the side. Then she took her clothes from the dresser and headed down the hallway towards the restroom. Jenna took her time in the shower, dreading the day ahead of her. Today she had a presentation to give in her English for her final grade. It was a big deal, and she wasn't sure how her teacher would interpret it. Jenna headed down the stairs and into the kitchen where she saw Ma. Ma was already whisking the eggs, milk, and vanilla together in a bowl to cook some French toast and sausage for the girls. She had made a fresh pitcher of her famous strawberry lemonade. Jenna took a seat at the table and poured herself a glass of the lemonade. Still a little hazy from her restless night, she yawned. "Good morning, dear. How was your slumber?" asked Ma. She was flipping the toast over while the sausage sizzled in another pan. Ma had already laid out the silverware and dishes for breakfast. She even placed the butter dish out on the table. Jenna looked around the table for a moment and noticed the maple syrup was missing. "Good, Ma," she responded, although that was a lie. "Where's the maple syrup?" Jenna asked. She liked to have everything ready before getting started on her food, and maple syrup was a must for her. "Sorry, sweetie, it's in the cabinet," Ma said as she gestured towards the cabinet next to the refrigerator. Jenna rose from her seat and retrieved the syrup from the cabinet. She turned around to head back to the table with the syrup in hand. "Here you are," Ma said as she handed a plate of food to Jenna. Even though Jenna was old enough to fix her own plate, Mom still would fix it for breakfast. This is mostly because most breakfast food was cooked separately for them. Ma enjoyed over easy eggs, but Jenna preferred scrambled eggs with cheddar cheese. Jenna sat back down at the table and began to fix her plate. She put butter on both pieces of French toast and poured syrup into a little bowl for dipping. Jenna hated the thought of soggy French toast, so she did not want to put maple syrup directly on it to sit and soak. Jenna started to eat her food, then looked up at Ma. "Thank you." She paused for a moment, then asked, "Can we talk?" "Sure thing, sweetie. What's on your mind?" Mom always said that the girls could talk to her about anything. About anything. Unfortunately, this was not always true for the girls. There had been times that it was easier for them to talk to their father than their ma, but they no longer had that choice. "Well, I've been working on my English presentation a lot." Jenna took a long pause by trying to find the right words to use before asking her question. "My project is..." She paused again and took a deep breath before continuing. "Well, it's about Dad." Ma was a little taken back by this. Jenna explained the concept of the project to her, but left out some key details. Details like the fact it involved her father. Ma still had difficulty with the subject of the girl's father. It was almost like she tried to erase his existence from their lives. The girl's father was a wonderful man who would have done anything for them. Jenna continued talking, well, sort of about Dad. Trying to collect her thoughts, Jenna closed her eyes a moment. "We were told to write about our lives and relate it to a character, and behind the beautiful forevers, life, death, and hope in a movie Undercity." Jenna paused to recollect her thoughts before continuing. "I know that it's not exactly about Dad, but it's about the pain of..." She took a deep breath before finishing. "Losing him." Jenna looked down at her half-empty plate as she heard footsteps coming down the stairs. "Hannah, are you still taking me today?" asked Jenna while she reached for her strawberry lemonade, trying to change the conversation. Jenna began to drink her lemonade while she waited on Hannah to answer. Yes, are you ready now? Hannah responded a little annoyed. Jenna did not understand why, since she was the one that offered to drive her to school. Jenna did not understand why Hannah always acted like she was an inconvenience to have around. It's not like they were little kids anymore. Jenna quickly finished her drink, then answered, I am now. She grabbed her backpack and headphones and headed towards the door. Hannah followed behind her with keys in hand. The girls did not speak a word to each other the whole car ride to school. Jenna looked out the window most of the drive, thinking about her presentation. Manju went through a tragedy much like us, thought Jenna. She continued practicing her speech in her head. Manju suffered a great loss, but has learned to overcome it just like my family. Jenna tried to recall examples from the book, but could not. She continues to practice. We suffered the great loss of my father and have to learn to overcome it and move forward. Before Jenna realized that they were already pulling up to the school, Jenna quickly unbuckled her seatbelt and took her bag. Bye, Hannah shouted as Jenna exited the vehicle. I'll be back later. Jenna closed the door behind herself, then headed towards the building, saying okay to Hannah. Jenna did not mind her sister driving her to school. It was better than walking all the time. Jenna knew that the school day would feel long because she had to wait until fifth period to give her presentation. Once that was over, she would feel better, or at least Jenna thought she would. It was a typical school day for her. In psychology class, they continued watching The Wizard of Oz on mute to Pink Floyd's The Wall album. Second period was her computer lab, so Jenna worked a little bit more on her English presentation. Third period was math, but her teacher was absent, so they worked independently, which really meant they goofed off all hour. So far, her day had been going pretty well. Next, she had PE, followed by lunch. Only 2 hours from the dreaded presentation would be over, thought Jenna as she entered the gym. Soon enough, it was fifth period, and Jenna had to wait for the teacher to call on her to be able to present. She just wanted to be done with the assignment. She could have been like the other students and chosen an easier theme of the story. Jenna was an overachiever, though, so easy was never her path. Jenna fidgeted in her seat, shaking her foot nervously. Like most people, Jenna hated public speaking, but it was part of the course now. No matter what teacher you had, 11th grade English required a final presentation. Jenna Stone, called out Miss Huck from the front of the room. The students were all talking about the presentation that just finished. Jenna slowly stood up from her seat. She held her note card in her right hand as she walked up to the podium. In front, Miss Huck told Jenna as she pointed towards the front of the podium. Jenna moved to the front of the podium, although she would have rather stood behind it to hide her shaking hands and tapping feet if it was allowed. Jenna took a deep breath as she looked out at the classroom. You got this, she told herself. She took another deep breath, placed her hands behind her back, and looked over at Miss Huck. Jenna could not focus while the class was still loud, so she patiently waited. Class, time to quiet down, Miss Huck ordered. We have another speaker now. The class all moved around the room quickly, finding their seats. The class was settled down in their seats and ready to listen. Jenna almost preferred that they just continue talking so they would not hear her. She cleared her throat, took in a deep breath, eased her shoulders, and began. Manju suffered a great loss of his friend in the book. It was a difficult time for him to go through this tragedy. Jenna took a pause and rolled the note card in her palm, trying to think of specific examples to where Manju showed great courage when faced with death. Jenna continued, tragedies come in many forms. What one person may claim as a tragedy, another may not. She paused again, trying to recall at least one example. After standing quiet for a while, Jenna looked down at her note card for guidance, but it was no use. She only put a few reminders on it, thinking that all the practicing helped her memorize the speech. But she was wrong. She could only remember bits and pieces of the speech. Jenna stared at her note card, hoping to jog her memory. It read, Manju suffered a great loss of his friend. Death is a strong theme, and the ability to overcome it. Manju is left asking many questions. Loss of my father. Left many asking many questions. Jenna started to watch the words as they wiggled on the page. She did not realize how hard it would be to bring up her father's death. She was starting to feel extremely overwhelmed. She had a whole mix of emotions washing over her. Jenna felt really hot all of a sudden, and it was getting harder for her to breathe. She related so well to Manju's loss, but only wished to have all his willpower to overcome it. Jenna could not hold it in anymore, and she ran out of the classroom towards the restroom with tears in her eyes. Jenna ran into the stall and sat down. She reached for some toilet paper to wipe her face. She tried to focus on her breathing. In, 1, 2, 3. Out, 1, 2, 3. Jenna repeated this several times. Unable to calm herself down, Jenna pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to her sister. You don't have to get me. I can take care of myself. I've been doing it for a long time now. This was not the first panic attack that Jenna had, but it was the first one she ever had at school. This made her feel worse than before. Jenna hoped for a response from her sister, hoping that she would let it be. After focusing on her breathing for a while, Jenna started to feel better. She decided that she should splash some cold water on her face to help bring herself back to reality. By the time she felt well enough to leave the restroom, the sixth period was almost over. Jenna took this as a sign to pack up her belongings and head home. Next, she knew her phone pinged. It was her sister responding. It's not a problem. I can pick you up on my way home. Jenna was relieved that Hannah did not push the issue anymore. She really just needed some time to herself for a little. Time to process what happened at school and what the repercussions would be. Jenna needed an A on this project to pass the class, to pass the 11th grade, to graduate, to make something of herself. She had so much writing on this presentation and she blew it. Jenna tried to think hard about how to fix the situation, but it was useless. Nothing came to mind. She debated letting Jenna pick her up after all, but decided that some time alone might be good. She decided to text her sister back really quick. No thanks, I'll run home. Jenna hoped that her sister would not question why she wanted to go for a run. She needed to calm her nerves and knew that running would help. It gives her a chance it gives her a chance to think. It gives her a chance to think things through in her head with little distraction. Jenna quickly put the rest of her belongings in her backpack, which was a rifle. She felt her phone ping again. Figuring it was going to be Hannah, she was ready with the response. Are you sure? Yes, I'm almost packed up to go already. Jenna slipped into her running shoes and put her backpack on. She would take the old highway home since many cars did not use it anymore. Jenna could feel the sun beat down on her neck as she walked along the highway. Jenna decided it would be too difficult to run with her backpack. She started walking down the old highway and felt her phone ping again. Jenna reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Okay, see you at home. At the edge of the woods was an abandoned deer blind that the girls used as a storage shed. Once she made it to the woods by her house, she could leave the bag and run the rest of the way home. Jenna reached the deer blind and went inside. She saw some empty beer bottles laying around and a few cigar ends. Those were definitely left there when her father used the blind last. Not that she could remember how long ago that was. Jenna took a deep breath and she could smell the nearby river. She decided to head back home after ditching her bag in the blind. Normally she would have stopped to go fishing, but that was all in the past now. Jenna headed out the blind and over to an oak tree. The river was quiet today, but Jenna could hear the crickets chirp in the woods. She could smell the fresh water on the river and feel the moisture in the air. Jenna knew that the humidity would make for a difficult run, but it was short from this point on. She stretched out her legs on the nearby oak tree before heading home. Jenna ran through the woods on the trail carefully. She ran this way often and knew there were a few fallen tree branches on the pathway. As she ran home, she did not even bother to look at any rocks along the river. Jenna walked into the house covered in sweat from her run. After carefully taking her muddy shoes off in the foyer, she moved through the kitchen. She almost collided with Hannah, who was leaving the pantry. Sorry, I'm going to take a quick shower. Jenna said as she ascended the steps two at a time. Jenna was in such a rush to wash the day away. She was in such a rush that she went into the bathroom before Hannah even finished shouting, "No worries." Soon after her shower, Jenna came down the stairs wearing her hair in a messy bun with pink Under Armour joggers and a white t-shirt on. She walked around the island and took a seat next to Hannah. They were eating spaghetti that night with Caesar salad. Although Jenna did not feel much like eating, especially spaghetti, she still started her plate. "Hi, honey, how are you feeling?" "You must be tired from running." Ma looked at Jenna as she spoke. Ma then took a big bite of her salad while waiting on Jenna's response. "I'm all right," Jenna sighed as she poked her at her food. She kept thinking back to her panic attack at school and her father's accident. "Ma, um, what happened that day at the track?" Jenna hoped that her mom would finally realize that enough time had passed and the girls were old enough to know more than the fact that it was a car accident at the track. "Sweetie, you already know it was a car accident," Ma quickly responded, trying to avoid the question. Ma often tried avoiding the subject of the girl's father. "Enough!" screamed Jenna. "Just tell us the truth already. We deserve to know." Jenna pleaded with her ma. She needed to know what happened. Not knowing was killing Jenna more than they knew. Jenna was experiencing nightmares that led to insomnia, panic attacks throughout the night mostly, and difficulty concentrating. Ma finally gave in. "It was starting to get stormy out, and your Uncle Pete wanted to call it a night. You know your father, though. Once on that track, he never wanted to leave. Your father convinced Uncle Pete to go for one more run. When they were rounding the last curve, your father's tire blew out, causing his car to spin into Uncle Pete's car. Unfortunately, neither one survived. I'm so sorry, girls. I wish this never happened." Mom started to break down crying. It must have taken a lot out of her to come clean. Jenna tried to replay the scene in her head, but it was no use. She was not there. All Jenna knew was that the morning of the accident, she said some hurtful things to her father that she must now live with. She never had the opportunity to apologize and make things right. Sometimes the guilt was too much for her to handle, that she needed an outlet. Jenna took off up the stairs, slamming the door behind herself. Jenna pulled out her computer and logged in. She placed her earbuds in and put on her playlist. She then began to work on a poem, her last poem that she would write. She kept drifting in and out while typing. Jenna couldn't help it. She had so many thoughts racing through her head that she needed to talk to someone. Anyone. "Hannah, are you still awake?" Jenna tries to whisper across the room, forgetting that her music is still playing in her earbuds. "It's impossible to sleep with your music playing so loud." Hannah sniffed back at her while tossing a pillow. The pillow hit Jenna's feet and bounced off the bed. Can I tell you something?" Jenna nervously asked her sister after turning off her music and taking her earbuds out. She really needed to talk to someone about the panic attacks she had been having, among other things. "La la 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 la, I can't hear you," Hannah sings as she plugs her ears and bounces side to side. "Hannah, stop it!" Jenna shouted as she gripped the edge of her mattress. The frustration was building inside her for days already. Jenna felt like every day was a challenge. She had trouble sleeping at night, trouble concentrating in school lately. She lost joy in most activities she used to love. Jenna had little patience left, especially to deal with Hannah's games. "I'm just teasing you," Hannah smiled, then asked, "What's wrong with you?" In a confused voice. Her sister always acted this way, like she did nothing wrong and Jenna was to blame, or at least that's how Jenna felt. Jenna lets out a sigh. "It's just," and she trails off, then clearly states, "Never mind, I'm going for a run." And with that, Jenna grabbed her pink Under Armour jacket off the bedpost as she slipped into her gray running shoes and headed towards the door. If no one cares, why should I? Jenna thought as she put her earbuds in. I cried my last tear. I let my world implode. It's been a rough year. I'm ready to go. I've taken my last breath. Let my eyes lay closed. For this is my end. how my story unfolds, how my story is untold. The tears begin to stream down Jenna's face as she races down the stairs, not caring about what hour of the night it is. Jenna unlocked the front door and swiftly and headed out towards the woods. There was a beautiful river that ran through there that Jenna loved. She knew that she would find peace there among nature, peace that could experience for eternity. Peace that she could experience for eternity. The end. Make sure that you like and subscribe so that you can continue listening to chapters as they come out every Friday. Thank you and have a wonderful day.